Thank you for joining me today for a study in the Word of God. My name is Richard Grubbs, and I am Director of Biblical Ministries Incorporated. And we're based in Lubbock, Texas, where we carry on ministry from this location to around the world. It's my privilege today to introduce to you a series of studies that I want to do in the book of Isaiah. One of my very favorite themes of the Bible is the majesty of the greatness of our God. And there's a chapter in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, that I think especially encapsulates that theme. It's a theme that's vitally important to the audience to whom it was originally written from the prophet Isaiah. So I want to just share with you a beginning look at this chapter. And what I'm going to do is have several lessons on this. And some of them we'll put together. If you want to look at a longer lesson at a time, you'll be able to do that. But they'll be also broken up so that if you have less time to look at them, you can do it in a series of viewings of the content that I put on about this chapter. Chapter 40 of the book of Isaiah is a turning point in this chapter in the book of Isaiah, because Isaiah is a book that is really a book of two major parts. And the first part of Isaiah is a section where the prophet Isaiah is writing what is mostly a section of rebuke to the people of the southern kingdom. They have been living in violation of their relationship with their covenant God. And in chapter 1, Isaiah begins to lay out the iniquity and the sins of the people and why they are going to go into captivity. And so as you look at the first part of the book of Isaiah, that's most of what you see. That certainly there are some other great pictures of birth of Messiah in chapter 7 and kingdom pictures in chapters 7 and chapters 9 and 11. But primarily it is a message of rebuke to the people because of the condition of their lives. But the book changes as you move into chapter 40. And let me just take a moment to kind of illustrate for you how the book of Isaiah breaks down. As you look at the slide that is coming up here, you'll see it simply says the prophecy of Isaiah, and there are two major sections. And so chapters 1 through 39 do primarily convey this message of judgment. Now, this it's a little bit simplistic because, for example, at the end of this section, there are some chapters that deal with some tremendous circumstances that have taken place in the history of the people of the Southern Kingdom, and also a couple of chapters that look ahead. But for the most part, the first section of the book of Isaiah deals with a matter of condemnation or rebuke to the people. And they are going to go into captivity, and the prophet Isaiah is spelling out exactly the reasons for that as you read the chapters that are in this section. You also find this material in other of the Old Testament prophets, because the Old Testament prophets echoed this theme and primarily dealt with a couple of major issues with the southern kingdom. They were the issues of condemnation or rebuke, judgment to come, and then the issue of comfort that the pictures that are given to them of some tremendous things that are going to happen in their future. And so if you look at the book of Isaiah and think of it this way, you understand the significance of chapter 40, because where we are in chapter 40, we're turning the corner here. And these people are going to be in captivity. And in 605, the captivity began with Daniel and some of his friends going into the land of Babylon. And then 597, another group went into Babylon. But by 586, the southern kingdom had completely fallen. Jerusalem had fallen, and they are now captives. They are exiles in the land of Babylon. And so there, they are going to need a message of comfort. Obviously, Isaiah is writing decades before this takes place, but he is using the Spirit of God to give him correct information. And though he's writing in about 740 BC, the actual fall takes place in 586. And we know from other writings of the Old Testament prophets that they're going to be there about 70 years. But they're going to be exiles. And as exiles, looking at this monumental empire that surrounds them, they have no hope. They have no understanding of how they will get themselves out of this circumstance. So when we come to chapter 40, the message turns to one of comfort. But the hope of this chapter is that they have to look up and see the greatness of their God. They're not going to be able to accomplish this on their own. It's going to take their God to move them back to the land that he has given to them. And so they are given a focus here on the majesty, the supremacy, the sovereignty of their God. This will be a point of encouragement for them and a point of hope for them. So as we come to chapter 40, we're moving into that arena of study in the book of Isaiah, where the subsequent chapters deal with hope and the pictures of the future of the people of the southern kingdom. And the post-exilic prophets and the post-exilic historical books give us a picture of how this actually unfolded. But by reading and understanding and being taught the message of Isaiah 40 and the chapters that follow, it will stir hope in them about how this will take place. And it's an amazing story because God is such a great God that he's able to orchestrate the conduct of nations to accomplish his purpose. And so later in the book of Isaiah, we will learn that Cyrus is going to be raised up to bring in the Medes and the Persians, and they will take down the Babylonian Empire. And in doing that, this will pave the way for the people to be sent back to the land. The Babylonians captured people and took them to their land. The Medes and the Persians looked at captives and said, let's send them back to their land. And so God is able to orchestrate the activity of nations to accomplish his purposes, and he will do that with the people of the southern kingdom. Now, in our study of Isaiah chapter 40, we'll break this up into several sections, and I really invite you to stay with us for all of those, because what you will see in this chapter is an unparalleled picture of the supremacy and the majesty of God. And just as that impacted the people of the southern kingdom who are exiles, it is vitally important for you and for me today to have that picture of our God. Many times in my life, I have had to rely on my understanding of how great God is to deliver me from overwhelming circumstances. You've been there, or you are there, or you will be there. And so you need to have this great picture of God in your own mind. And you'll get that from Isaiah chapter 40, because it just is a tremendous picture of God who is greater than everything that he has created. So I want to invite you to come back to this source and look ahead to the post that will be provided after this, and put the whole chapter together in your mind and in your thinking, and grow in your faith as you see how great our God really is. Thanks for being with me today. And I'll sign off here, and we'll be back with another post that you can move to move with me into a study of this great chapter of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 40.